And here we are, back after the commercial break on one of the balconies of the downtown. We have the historical introduction from the previous episode behind us, fantastic, and I promise that we're gonna walk around the city as such as it is today. So, without any further ado, let's jump straight into it. Let's start by walking one of the main streets of downtown proper. Now, let's have one thing clear straight up front. Often when people come to places like the Near East, they expect it to be wild and crazy, plenty of people and cars in the street honking all the time, the salesmen pitching it one against the other. Well, you will not find it here. You are going to see pretty much a normal street. And I mean, of course, the shops are there, the salesman will say, "Hello, welcome to Jordan," and the such, but they are not over the top. You are going to see quite a lot of people, but not as many as you may expect out of Near East and out of a city that's 4 million inhabitants, right? You will have the famous Amman traffic, but crossing the street here is not saving your life each single time. And what surprised me maybe most, the honking is there, you hear it from time to time, but it's not constant. So, one can be kinda disappointed, because that's not what you expected of the place, right? Especially when you're watching it from home, you may be wanting something more. But let me tell you this, we were very happy and positively surprised that we can simply walk around the downtown without any hassle, really. So that was for us a very positive twist. But let me also tell you this, the main streets of the downtown are not the highlight of Amman. What you need to do though, you simply have to enter one of the side streets, and very quickly you may end up in a place which, at least from the European point of view, is more, within brackets, authentic. The souq, so one of the famous markets. And this place is busy, this place is loud. So let's get straight into it. And I guess best option is no more commentary. Let's soak into the Levantine atmosphere of one of the Amman souqs. So there you go, the walk around one of the Amman souqs, a lot of fun, but of course it's not only walking around. When we saw the olives, we decided to try one or two out, and I have to say they were very bitter. We are not used to such flavors, doesn't matter, we bought them anyway, and one of those days I'm gonna make an episode about olives only, and also about spices only, and of course about sweets as well. Everything in the future will come. But now our last look at the souq, now properly recorded because, as you probably noticed, everything was recorded previously from the pocket, but I hope it gave you kind of an authentic feel as if you were there with me. But now let's leave the souq behind. Another important experience of Amman is up, up, up we go. I think I mentioned in the previous episode, it's a city built on 77 hills. So yes, if you're in downtown main streets, you're in the valley. But then you want to go to any of the neighborhoods, you have to go up. A neighborhood means a hill, and they are steep. Of course, there are ways around it. You can follow the main streets, they go pretty much as a serpentine, so it's much easier. Normal people do that. Well, we're not exactly normal though. So we were always looking for some kind of nooks and crannies and steps and the such. Also because then you notice another detail. Those neighborhoods are rather poor, and from what I know, most of neighborhoods around downtown are the lower economic status. And you will pretty much see it now. Again, from the pocket, we're gonna walk around one of the streets of one of the neighborhoods, and you will see pretty much nothing. It's just a regular neighborhood. There's nothing to visit here, but just walking around it to basically see it and feel it is also an important part of the experience. Maybe in the end, the best part of it all is when you have hills, you have some amazing views. So now I'm gonna show you a couple of panoramas, but also as audio, another important piece of local experience is the muezzin calling to prayer. And in Amman, one of those days, I heard by far the best muezzin I heard in a full month. Enjoy. So that was that. Pretty neat, right? Now this is the very spot when I was listening to his call, and this is the mosque. Now actually this place, the street, is not famous because of the muezzin or because of the mosque. It's famous for being the main pub and bar street of Amman, Rainbow Street. Actually you will see no rainbows anywhere. There's the Rainbow Theater though. And the name of the street was different, but everybody kept calling it because of the theater Rainbow Street. Eventually the name pretty much stuck, and it is for 100 years now known also as one of the, let's call it, elite streets of the downtown. Already 100 years ago, the local elites, many of them foreigners, were living here. And a great example you are going to see at the very moment. This is 20s, 30s European modernism right there. But that is its past. When it comes to the present of the street, There are still quite a lot of expats in Amman. Good example, there's British Council in Rainbow Street, and it has become kind of expat central. So you've got European style pubs, bars and restaurants. So wherever we would read about Rainbow Street, everybody would say, yes, go, it's amazing, great vibes. So we went, and to be honest, kind of disappointing. Many buildings like this, ruined state. Yeah, there's a pub, there's a restaurant, but kinda bit too fancy, nothing really special, I would say. Our favorite detail in the end? Listen to this now.
Francés no es. No, he's not.
Did you recognize him? I think he's actually singing in French here, but this is none other than Julio Iglesias. Yep, that's the highlight of Rainbow Street. One of the pubs plays Julio all the time. If you are surprised, well, the royal family of Jordan has strong ties to the royal family of Spain. And for example, in many archaeological places, you will find such signs, so there must be strong cultural ties. Maybe because of that, Julio has become popular in Jordan. Or maybe because Julio Iglesias is damn awesome. Anyway, I mentioned 100-year-old villas. So there are plenty of villas in the vicinity of Rainbow Street, although some of them look a bit more modern and they are inhabited. Then you have those who are definitely old school, 100 years old, good old school 20s, 30s modernism, but they look abandoned. Sometimes it's even more complicated. Here's an inhabited garden.
Przywitaj się.
So definitely, if you have doggies, the garden is inhabited and well kept, but the building that was next to it looked rather ruined. So my guess is it is still a villa neighborhood, but people, if they live here, they build modern villas. They don't want to live in the old. So they remain either in a ruined state, or if they're a bit more lucky, there are workshops or art galleries there. And we actually wanted to visit one or two of the art galleries, but this time not very lucky, they were either simply closed or under renovation. But here's the saving grace. Turns out all of Amman is one huge art gallery. And this is, I think, our main highlight that we take away from the city. Here's a great example of how it works. This is the concrete barrier that's in front of the British Council. Normally, it would be grey and horrible and ugly, but it became a canvas for street art. So now it's simply beautiful. And this is pretty much the whole city. It's a huge canvas. Some of it is better, some of it is worse, but you have plenty of examples. But for more on the story of street art, I finally pass the mic to Vicky.
One of the things that we loved in Amman, one of the beautiful discoveries that we made, is that Amman is a street art city. We started seeing these murals mostly when we went up on a hill, and then when we had the nice view of the city, we could see that hiding between the buildings, we had big walls with faces, colorful images, and we started thinking that there were too many, so maybe that was part of a movement. Then we read some articles that actually were mentioning that in that region, in Middle East, Palestine was the first country to use street art to express Palestinians' feelings, especially because of the political context they have there and the war. This later spread to countries like Egypt, Lebanon, and then when the Arab Revolution spread it and started, all this art and all these murals also started appearing in all these cities. When street art started in Amman, it was because artists and young people felt that Amman was too gray, the same colors all the time. They needed to change it a little bit. So they just took the brushes and started coloring all the walls they found. Also, there were very poor neighborhoods that they just colored all over the place, and then it became attractive, and then some tourists started going there, and then also people from Amman. The stairs have colors, the walls have colors, then they put some flowers and plants, and they also developed their own themes. So now once a year there is a festival called Valak Festival. They started in 2013. They have the agreement with the government and the Minister of Culture and even some support, like, for example, some fundings from the EU. And they have developed a big network of artists. They have the walls where they can draw and paint their topics. And they also use the street art to make people from Jordan aware of certain topics, like, for example, the scarcity with water, or, for example, inequality in the society, lack of work, social topics. They use art to empower society and to talk and create a dialogue. And this is very positive for a country in a region in the Middle East that is so complicated sometimes. We loved this street art, we enjoyed it very much, and I was particularly very surprised and happy to find a Catalan artist whose name is Jofre Oliveras, who painted one of the most beautiful murals in Amman. He represents a worker in Petra. You can't miss it if you visit Amman.
Indeed, you cannot miss it. But here's the sad part for me. The Catalan accent of Amman is a beautiful piece of street art. The Polish accent, I'm gonna show you soon. Anyway, here's probably one of the cutest things about the whole movement. The artists convinced local people to, for example, start putting baskets everywhere. And some of them are painted with some lights. It's a very simple thing, but I think it worked so well that it's not only baskets. You will see sometimes flowers or flags, but anything that is simple and gives color to cover up the gray. And even some shops. This is just a shop selling wicker furniture, but it looks more like a little art gallery. So it must have been a huge success. And talking about art galleries, well, actually we have not found too many that were opened, and those that were, it was alright, but nothing truly spectacular. So in the end, most of the so-called art galleries, here with the typical touristic I love Amman and our favorite piece of infantilism, were not really art galleries. You can easily guess they were shops, but they did have some very interesting art anyway. Now here you have something called the monumental flag. We already saw it listening to the muezzin. But in one of the shops there was this beautiful painting, an artistic rendering of it. And there was a mini version, a magnet for a fridge. And we liked it so much, here it is on our fridge as one of our souvenirs. We also found some so-called recycling art, which is one of my favorite pieces in Amman as well. But here's something probably you did not expect. Yes, we also find erotic art. And I have to say, some of it is rather raunchy. But no peeping, as it's sex. Enough. So, talking about perversions, Vicky still loves the doors and the handles. So you will have now several interesting examples. There were no ceramic tiles, there were no gargoyles, but she found new love, the stone. Yep, the stone here is absolutely amazing. I was walking around Roman ruins, Vicky was taking photos of stones. A couple of examples here, but you don't need to go to the Amman citadel. All you need to do is walk the streets of Amman, and many of the buildings are made of this beautiful white stone. It truly mesmerized us, so expect a bit more in the future, but I imagine that by now you've had enough. You are now like this panda. Stop with all this street art already. So, enough, but one extra thing we need to show you. Our absolutely favorite piece of street art is not in Amman actually, but a good 3 hours south, in a little town called Al-Mazar. We randomly found this. On a random school, just on its side, is the most beautiful piece of street art in all of Jordan, and you will see it again in one of the future episodes. So, after all the art frenzy, it is time to get a bit of rest back to Rainbow Street, although we are resting the artsy way still, under the baskets, and we're resting having a beer. And you may say, wait a second, but Jordan is Muslim. Yeah, but it's liberal enough. Alcohol is legal. There are bars selling beer. There are also special liquor stores. Very often they will advertise Amstel, as the company is present already since the 60s. But there's a Polish accent here. Yeah, people in Jordan know Poland because of either vodka or Lewandowski. I don't know what's worse. But the point of pride for Jordanians is the Petra beer. Let me tell you this. I tried it once. Now, there's also wine. There are two companies. We tried both. Here you see one of them. They're alright. So I guess my silence there was kind of meaningful, right? But you saw another brand. Now, I'm taking you away 1 hour to the west to a little town called Fuchais. And on the verge of town, lost between the hills and valleys, is this kinda production hall. What do they produce here? Beer, my friends! Welcome to the only in Jordan craft brewery. Welcome to Caracal. Now actually the name itself is already very smart. Caracal is the name of a local feline. And there you have it. So it's combined with ale to form Caracal. And actually here you have it as a symbol. The Caracal with wings. So it's all very smart, but there's one extra thing. This is not ISIS. This is Caracal written in Arabic alphabet, although the absurdity of the coincidence is not lost on me. But before we start properly visiting the place, let's have a couple of words from one of the managers.
Welcome to Caracal. Caracal started a long time ago, 2010. It was established by Yazan Karachi and his father. Yazan caught the bug for craft beer when he was living in the US studying. And in Jordan, we were used to simple lagers, mainstream beers. We didn't have any of the nice craft beers in Jordan. So Yazan decided to come back to Jordan and create a beer culture, introducing people to new beers, to different styles, different flavors, to the world of beer. We want to put Jordan on the world beer map. We've been producing since 2010. Our first beer came to the market in 2013. We have a different range of styles of beers, with simple blonde ales and pale ales. We have the Dead Series and Red Series, which I'm wearing the t-shirt now. These are some special beers that we use Jordanian ingredients. So the Dead Series would have Dead Sea salt. It's a sour beer with Dead Sea salt and pink grapefruit juice from the Jordan Valley. Same thing with the Red Series, which has pomegranate powder and blood oranges. It's another style of sour beer. We try to keep things exciting at Caracal, so we have two brew houses. The big brew house, as we call it, and the nano series. With the big brew house, that's where we produce our mainstream beers that go to the market and retail. With the nano, we experiment with a lot of beers. So when you come to the tasting room, when it's open, right now we're doing a lot of upgrades at the brewery. You'll be able to experience a lot of styles of beers. So we produce around 70 styles of beer, 75 styles of beers a year. So we experiment with different stuff. This year it's going to mark a big change for us. We're upgrading our brew house. We used to have a 2-barrel system. We're upgrading it to a 4-barrel system now. We've expanded the nano series with more fermentation tanks, and we're going to have cans. We used to only sell bottles and kegs to hotels and restaurants, and now we're going to have the can, which we're very excited about. It's something that we've been working really hard to have. Caracal, right now I'm sitting in the tasting room. There's nobody behind me right now because nobody's visiting, because we're closed. But if you look around, we are in a very nice valley. It's called the Blue Valley, and it changes all year round. Spring, summer, autumn, winter. You'll find different nature. You'll find some hawks hovering around with the thermals, and we have occasional visitors of scorpions and snakes, which our team love when they find them. It's very exciting when we find one of those around. So we're kind of out of the wilderness, but we're very close to Amman. You're always welcome to visit. Go to our website, book a tour. We always like people to come over and see what we're doing and how we create our beers.
Super interesting, right? Here's the only problem with listening to it. If you're listening about the beer, eventually you want one or two. So then, after the interview, we moved to this beautiful place to have a bit of consumption, and there was plenty to choose from. Here you've got the menu. There was actually more. Not everything's written here. And when it comes to consumption, Vicky started without even waiting for me. But I have to tell you that our absolute favorite was Dead Serious. For those of you who never heard, this is a style called Gose, which comes from medieval Germany, and in the 19th century, Leipzig and around was very famous for it. Main peculiarity is they use salt in water. So with the Dead Sea salt, it was so amazing that this is our little altar, and the bottle is there, and if you look to the right, there's also a caracal glass. But there's even more experimenting, a guava pilsner. If that's not enough, look at this. Imperial porter with dates and Bedouin coffee brewed with cardamom. Cool, hey? Also, you have beers that actually win medals in Asian beer festivals that were barrel-aged before. And if that's too much for you, there's always a good old school lager or an IPA at hand. But it wasn't only the tasting, the degustation that we did. We had also a little tour around. Now, as the manager told us, they are actually renovating right now and upgrading. As you can see, there are still things to do, although when you are watching the clip, this video, most probably it is all intact and running already. Well, but I can hear you asking, yeah, but this is a Muslim country. Yes, once again, Jordan is a liberal Muslim country. There are Muslims here who drink alcohol and nothing happens to them. Actually, when I was in the East, they were offering me homemade arak. Actually, now that I mentioned the East,
I went to Ruwaishid.
Here you are. This is what I mentioned in episode 1. This is typical reaction to Ruwaishid. Disbelief, shock. But let's not get distracted. One thing, there are Muslims who drink alcohol. Another, there's also Christian minority. When you combine the two, you can have people who drink or brew beer. But there is yet another layer older than both religions.
This region is where wine and beer came from. It's been a long time where we haven't been making our own styles. There's a lot of ancient stuff, ancient beers that were produced, but we're trying to, it's something that we're working on right now, to look at old recipes and see what we can recreate.
So there you go. Beer has been in that region for thousands of years, reclaiming its rightful place now. And we wish them all the best in their endeavors. Thank you very much. One more thing. I grabbed a little souvenir. Now I pose as Zeus with a t-shirt worthy of Olympic gods themselves. In the meantime though, the night has come, so by taxi, coming back to Amman, coming back through western Amman to be specific, and this is the rich part. There's no doubt during the day, there's even less doubt during the night. With all the lights, you can see there is wealth here. And it's kinda over the top, to be honest. Of course, if that's what they wish to show, they have all the right. But we also have all the right to completely skip it. So no, we're not gonna hang around Western Amman, we're going straight downtown. And we're gonna walk around it by night for a change. And notice one thing, Vicky looks like we're back in Polish winter. She has a coat, she has a hat, and a scarf as well. Cause you're thinking, Near East, it's always hot. Well, not in March, not at night, not in Amman. This city is roughly 900 meters above sea level. But that's only the average. When you have all the hills, some of them are 1,200 meters above sea level. That's high. So, in March at night, it's cold, especially with the winds that they have here at that time as well. So that's one thing. Another, what we also noticed, plenty of the shops are opened 15, 16 hours a day. And we thought something's wrong. And yes, something's wrong. Actually, we've been told that the business isn't going well. So supposedly they keep opening for such long hours, hoping that the longer they're opened, the more people may be inclined to come in and buy something. So that may be the case, but let me tell you, the business isn't going well. And another thing we noticed, those shops are pretty much all the time empty. Now, such details we've been told by one Abdel Rahman. We wrote on Couchsurfing if anybody wants to meet up. He responded, so we met up, and we kept asking questions like that. But even more interesting, turns out he's a civil engineer. Another thing we noticed, we are here 1 month after the horrible earthquake in southeastern Turkey and northern Syria. So we simply asked him, what happens to central Amman if an earthquake hits? And he straight up answered, nothing will remain. Well, let me show you an example of a building that not only that it wouldn't survive an earthquake, but honestly, we are wondering how this building can simply survive earthquake or no earthquake. Well, somehow it does. But also Abdel Rahman told us that sometimes he did not sign documents because the buildings were so badly constructed, he did not want to take any responsibility for it. But those were not the only topics we talked about. We talked about lighter things as well, of course, and we ended up in a tea shop. Now, this is another very important experience in Jordan. People tend to invite you for a bit of tea. Now, I'll be honest with you, it's usually simply Lipton. But it's a very nice gesture anyway. But from time to time, you can see proper tea shops with proper, let's call it craft tea. And some of them, like this one, opened 24 hours a day. And those are rather busy. Now here's the highlight of our evening walk. This is, Rainbow Street again. And you can see the baskets, but not simply hanging above us, but also with lights. So this place is impressive. And you know, I was complaining about this Rainbow Street, but we kept coming back in the end anyway. So there is some charm to it. And it turns out that the Rainbow Theatre, responsible for giving the street the name, we thought it's empty. It isn't. There's actually stuff going on in there. And we wanted to talk to some people about a certain topic. We didn't manage to do it live, but hey, 2023, some things can be done online. Prepare for... Yup, your eyes are not deceiving you. Amman Comedy Club. Now for us the whole thing begins with two linguistic issues. First of all, I believe that one of the most important experiences while traveling is listening to the lingo of the local people. So that's one thing. But another, I think the Western media, when they give us Arabic, it's usually in negative context of terrorism and the crazies and the such. So I had this idea in one of the episodes simply to have normal people speaking the language normally, to have it finally in positive context. But then Vicky had a great idea. We love stand-up. So she thought, why not investigate? Maybe there is stand-up in Amman. And guess what happened? Well, let me pass the mic to Yazan.
So, our story began with the vision of creating a platform for Jordanian and Arab comedians to showcase their talents and promote comedy in the region. We wanted to provide opportunities for those who were passionate about comedy and give them the chance to develop their skills and reach out to wider audiences. So we established the Amman Comedy Club in 2019 with the support of grants from the Konrad Adenauer Foundation and the US Embassy in Jordan. collaborating with the Second City, the biggest comedy institute in the US, based in Chicago. We wanted to bring the best practices of comedy training and performances to Jordan and the Arab region. Since then, we've grown and evolved, expanding our reach to include the Jordan Comedy Festival, which is a platform for Jordanian and Arab comedians to showcase their talents. We have also established the Arab Comedy Talents Network, which serves as a hub for comedy training, events, and performances. Our focus is on promoting gender equality, inclusivity, and diversity within comedy. As part of our efforts to promote inclusivity and diversity, we have held approximately 16 training workshops for refugee children aged 13 to 16 all over Jordan as part of our Comedy Lab 2 project. We aim to continue providing opportunities for Arab comedians to showcase their talents, collaborate with international comedians, and expand our reach across the region. We are committed to promoting social change through comedy, addressing important issues in a humorous and engaging way. With our new 5-year strategy, we hope to further our mission and to continue making an impact in the world of comedy. Thank you so much.
Well, more than just a comedy club, right? We did not have the pleasure of meeting Yazan and the crew live, but hey, 2023. If you cannot do it live, you can do it online. He was, as you saw, very nice to record himself at home, but also he sent me plenty of clips from some of the shows. That's what you're seeing right now. So I told you about my idea that we should listen to Arabic in positive context, right? Well, here's a perfect opportunity. Let's have one of the comedians for like half a minute. Just listen to the language in a context of humor and fun. Enjoy.
طبعا جد كان اول ما شفت دبي حسيت حالي فاشل. وانت كمان؟ انا ما عملتش شيء بس حسيت حالي فاشل. برضو؟ انا ما وصلتش لغاد، انا اول ما شفتها بقول لك. شفت الناس اللي غاد حسيت حالي فاشل وفقير. هو انا عن جد فقير بس حسيت حالي فقير بزياده. وبشع بالمره. طبعا وصلت الاوتيل كنت كثير تعبان، دخلت على الاوتيل هيك لقيت التخت كثير نظيف، نمت على الكنباي. شو بدنا نعمل بقول لك مش فاهم علي.
Fun, laughter, Arabic, all of it bundled together? Well, obviously possible. But that was nothing compared to improvisation. Turns out they do something that 40 years ago was invented in the UK as whose line is it anyway? If you haven't heard, their idea is that you should have some games with some specific rules. But it's not about the rules, it's about improvisation according to the rules of the game. So here's a very good example. There are going to be two guys on stage that have to improvise a scene. The topic will come from the crowd, but you can also see two girls. They have microphones in their hands. They will provide, and mind you, they are also from the crowd, they will provide sound effects to what the guys are doing. So they have to improvise the scene, the topic of the scene, but also they have to improvise to the sound effects that the girls make. So it's a great example of how the improv comedy works, but also it's great for us because we don't need to understand the language to get the comedy out of it. So I guess no more commentary. I think you're gonna understand and laugh along with the crowd.
ضربوا بحدا ورا فور بعد بدي اسمع شغله فور كان تشيك شيء صار تشيك رزق بتطلع كل الالفابet يعني تعرف شو؟ انا جايب معي كومبريسور هيدا اللي بيحفر فيه اسرع يلا نحفر فيه خليني اجيبه رح دوره حبيب دوم نحسين شوي جاي الكمبرسور هيلو كيتي جيب الكمبرسور الاصلي جيب الكمبرسور هيدا الاصلي رح جرب دوري احطه ميوت بس على دور دور سوري مش انت بلا مشكلة مش انت بلا فاصوليا يعمل هيك خلينا انا احفر دور رح دور ودغري بلش حفر دغري ايه مش الحل مش الحل ليك ايه ليك هو معلق تحسه عامل ديبريشن خلص طفيت لعن عرضه صوته فمزعج
I think after this example it's kind of obvious, if you've never seen it, how it works. But that was just a little introduction. You have to see this one. Actually, the game itself, I've never seen it before. Let's call it audio video. So my guess is two guys have to play out some kind of a scene according to a style of music or something like that, and it's gonna become a template. Then you have two guys sitting in the back. So they will tell them to change language, culture or something like that, so they have to do the same template but a different way. But also audio video, so they're going to be told to fast forward, rewind. Anyway, I absolutely loved it. I laughed like crazy. So now, without any further ado, enjoy.
ما حبيتها ما حبيتها هيك العالم زهقت بدنا ننوع رح جرب لك بيت بوكس بتمي
ريوايند ريوايند
رح جرب لك بيت بوكس بتمي هيا العالم زهقت ما حبيتها ما حبيتها بدنا شيء ثاني طم طم طم
ستوب بوز فورورد بوز ريوايند بوز فورورد
ما حبيتها شيء ثاني العالم زهقت بدنا شيء ثاني جديد بنجرب بيت بوكس خلينا نعمل رقص معاصر هيك نشوف واحد اثنين I'm too sexy for my shirt. Too sexy for
ريوايند
too sexy for my shirt.
فورورد
I'm too sexy for my shirt. Too sexy for my shirt. لا ما لازم تبرزي مع حسنك للكل. عارفة شو لازم تعملي؟ شو؟
ريوايند فورورد
شو؟
ريوايند
شو؟
فورورد
شو؟
ريوايند
شو؟ عارفة شو لازم تعملي؟ شو لازم؟ لا عندي فكرة جديدة بدنا نعمل رقص معاصر. Too sexy for my shirt. Too sexy for too sexy for my shirt. حبيتها ايه يا جري العالم زهقت لازم نلبس شيء جديد لازم نعمل شيء جديد ما حبيتها
بوز change language شو بدي اعمل تلقينه يلا تلقينه فورورد
كان دوما نعمل احسن من هيك بدنا شيء جديد للعالم بدنا نعمل بيتا بوكس هذا بالرسم عاصم نحن شو ايوه انت وزنك زي هذا حل ثاني هذا كده اذا بحسك هيك
بوز فاست ريوايند بوز change language Turkey forward
ما حبيتني ليه عطي سليم حلمش بدي نمشي جديد العالم زهقتين كلمة عمري بكتب أربعة بيتوكسيم أتبي بيتوكسيم عليهم إبرين العلم مكسيم بكتب لكم عبود الشهور الخزي بوينة مسكتين مسكتين بوينة مسكتين مسكتين يا عبد العزيز جايب زين صوتي بحلم حزوية لازم أمديكم بسيطة
بس يكون rewind mute. Pause. Change language. Cleaning. Forward.
نصرت كرم السيف بالنفس وسطا كرسي يشيل ابو يتصل وسطا تصمر زهر تيجا بدا بيتو بكسو صنع على الدشر
Take first position. Change language.
الجمهور يعطينا
اعطونا شيء. مصري يلا جو. Forward مصري.
تكدلي ولي كدلي العالم باظت قوي ايه رايك نعمل هيدي بوكس بنتي بوكس لا ده اللي بتناكل انت كذا واحد ملامية ولا مليون بقول لك لسه مش عجباني بس معايا حاجه جديده
Pause. Slow motion rewind.
Too sexy for my shirt. Too sexy for my shirt. Too sexy for
Okay, thank you.
Now that was a lot of fun. If you did not find that funny, you have a heart of stone. Now, before we leave the topic, I have to share with you supposedly the most important lame dad joke of Jordan. Marra wahad hab tahanu. Tell it to a Jordanian if you meet one and see what happens. But for us, it's almost goodbye to Amman. So a bit of street art we found at night, and then we went the last night to kind of a fancy restaurant. Well, it's not here, it's in the downtown, of course. But when we found it, we also found another fun piece. They don't have a river, they don't have a bridge, but there are locks of love somewhere in any town, right? Anyway, the last night, the fancy restaurant overlooking a busy downtown street, that's of course to say goodbye to the city. But the thing is, we're actually not saying goodbye yet. If you think Amman has nothing more to share, well, think again. Thank you very much, and I am going to see you very, very soon.